Thank you so much, Laura. And yes, good morning to everyone. Really honored to present to you this back to school training for the 612 social studies. That's what this session is all about. The titles that are very similar in layout. So I'm actually going to present from a history title, but just know that the orientation and lesson structure is the same for your titles. Very, very similar. When we talk about inquiry, we have inquiry with all of our titles. And the digital is a consistent layout. When we go to navigate the digital, you'll see that if you're in your title, it's the same way to access your resources. And then we'll talk about what you might do for next steps, because there's always more to explore. So with that, let's start talking about what's in your teacher's edition. Some of you may have print, some may have digital, some may have both. Now, in our print, you can see here that our courses are designed by topic. That way you can teach those topics in any order. And you'll see that there's 4 different types of lessons. We have an introduction lesson, which we'll definitely dive into and learn the events lessons. Inquiry activities are built right in, and then review and apply lessons. So different types of resources will be housed at different lesson level, at different lessons. So if we're looking for a specific activity that I might show you, if you're not finding it, maybe look at a different lesson type. So if you're looking at a lot of primary sources, we're always going to go to those inquiry activities. But we'll look at each of those lessons, of course, in more detail. In the front matter of your book, you'll see that we list out all those primary sources. We're going to list out all those activities for the topic. There's a lot of different choices. So as you're teaching, some of you in the Philippines might be using something different than those of you in Tokyo or in wherever else you are. I know that there's people from all over Asia here. So even within your school or communities, you're going to be using different topics based on your student needs and their levels of ability. So if you want to focus more on writing or geography, making connections to today, you'll have those different activities for your students. Also, there's a great section in the front that really talks about how to use that teacher edition, what's in the overview and lesson planner pages. You're going to have focus on civics if you want. You can look at an econ activity, even if you're in history, historical thinking. Also support for reading, writing, speaking, and listening. You can easily see what type of activity it is by that header. And the instructional pathway will be very similar. So we're following that inquiry arc from the C3 framework. We're talking about engaging our students. We're having them learn the events as we cover certain standards. We're having them analyze multiple sources. And then we give them choices as they decide how to apply what they've been learning. And they do their review, and then you're providing some sort of an assessment or performance-based project or hands-on topic project. But you'll see here that the students are able to go in and do these activities that will really engage them, spark their curiosity. We want them to either maybe use that student edition or they're online. Maybe they're using that adaptive and personalized program called SmartBook, which is a part of all your resources. Different types of activities to engage and teach and actually be able to provide your instruction in the way that works best for you. So if you're interested in our national demo code for all of the titles, and that's what I'm going to be using today, feel free to take a picture of this and have this for future use if you don't have your own account or you're just exploring the McGraw Hill Social Studies resources for grades 6 through 12. And of course, we're not just talking about history and world history, econ, geography, government. There's a lot of titles that are included in this demo account. So feel free to look at those. And we also offer a full range of AP and honors courses as well. So there's that demo code. You'll notice in your teacher's edition an overview planner. This always lists the learning objectives that you'll see here, all of the knowledge and skills that you'll be instructing. And then there will be a suggested pacing guide. This is just a suggestion. A lot of us don't have the same amount of time as the other teacher down the hall or across the campus or in another building. So you'll see though that there's a suggestion of 1 day per almost all of the lessons with the exception of inquiry. Inquiry will often take more than a day. And sometimes those review and apply lessons will take more than a day as well, depending upon what you need to reteach. And there's certainly recommendations on what you can do for reteaching, and you'll see that coming up shortly. The key to use the teacher edition, it's very simple. We have activities for beyond level students, those students that need enrichment. We have activities for approaching level students, those struggling readers, for English language learners, for small groups, individuals, whole class. You can certainly modify any activity to really fit your needs. As we take a look at this overview planner, you'll see that there's project-based learning for every topic. There's inquiry. There's a lot of different types of assessment. Some of the most popular forms of assessment might be the inquiry project activities, where the students choose whether they create a podcast or write an essay, really based on their learning style. You might do that topic-based learning hands-on project, but you might also just give an assessment that's auto-graded and gives you back some great data on what was the most difficult concept for your students. But again, you're going to see that there's always options for the kids to actually do a hands-on project. This project can certainly be modified, but notice that it says to go online. This is where you'll find those instructions that you can edit and you can make it your own. So if you don't want to create a collage, you can certainly make changes to that assignment. Now let's talk about inquiry. Inquiry for most of your topics, for most of the titles, is built right into the core resource. So you don't need additional. Some of you will have an additional piece, but it's additional. Your inquiry journal will have multiple primary sources for your students to analyze and cite text evidence, compare, develop their own questions. And there's, of course, also going to be Spanish resources if you need it available. And Google Translate works really well with our interactive student ebook, as well as probably many other programs do too. As we're looking at lesson planning, these lesson plans are customizable. You'll notice whether it's in print on the left or digital on the right, and you can certainly print these off. You can go in and see what exactly you want to teach based on grouping, based on skill, based on the need of your day and your students. So as we're taking a look at your teacher edition activities, you'll notice here some different options, different points to consider and things to think about with the students that are in front of us. But again, let's just look at those 4 different types of lessons, because you'll see that there's different resources that will work well to engage our students and provide that instruction in a meaningful way. So as we look at the introduction lesson, often we're introducing those essential questions. We're making sure our students understand the why. We want to engage them. We're going to offer these culturally responsive connections at point of use. We're going to provide maps and timelines so the students understand the where and the why, understand that place and time. We're going to offer suggestions for you as far as predictable misunderstandings, making sure that we're aware of that our students are all very different, and then providing that background information that's so important for our students. Now, we all know that our student textbook is sometimes too difficult for our students to read. So you will notice in your teacher's edition, it will say, use reading and writing essentials. And it even says, use this activity available online. Of course, you can print this out to help you teach this topic to English language learners and approaching level students. Reading and writing essentials is going to be 2 grade levels below, and the student does not need their textbook in order to complete this activity. This is a fantastic piece for students that are on certain educational plans, that struggle to read, that don't have access to an online text, or you don't want them taking home a print version. Here's just an example of one of those from a lesson, and all of the lessons, with the exception of that last lesson, will have the reading and writing essentials. You'll notice here, it is an individual task. They could certainly work on it together with someone, but you'll notice the difference. We want to make it a more simple sentence structure and available and accessible to our students. As we move on and look at the writing piece, we want to give students additional support with graphic organizers, vocabulary support, support for that essential question as they answer those compelling questions. Here we're working on, here we have this compelling question. We're looking at this timeline and we're wanting to provide our students with support for reading strategies. You can see here as we call out this reading strategy, you could use a big Post-it note or have students complete this on their own paper to collect their notes. But this guided reading activity really allows students to use their ELA skills to summarize and make connections to the previous learning. You'll notice different strategies at different lessons with different lessons. So have the students keep a notebook, or maybe you're keeping this up on the board, but think of this as this paper pencil version of what I'm going to introduce to you, and that's called Smart Book. We want to offer the students choices depending upon their learning styles. So here we're going to have those guiding questions throughout, and you'll notice that the teacher's edition will reference a guided reading activity. These will be in the Learn the Events lessons. When we go online, you're going to see the different types of lessons, how clear it is. When I show you the teacher's edition, the 4 different types of lessons. We introduce a topic. We have Learn the Concepts lessons. Then we go into inquiry. So guided reading is a great note taker to have with my book. As I'm hearing my teacher's instruction, I can be taking my notes. You can also edit these guided reading activities. So if you only want to include section A, you absolutely can do that. And as you make changes on your digital account, those changes will be saved. Here we move into our Learn the Events lesson, and you're going to notice your answers are right there. You have background information there, point of view support for special needs students, those English learner scaffolds at 3 different levels. And then you'll notice the options for assessment, or maybe an exit slip, a walk out the door activity. Maybe we're just writing a question on the board or having the students turn and talk to their neighbor. There are lesson quizzes, and you can see that you'll be able to edit those and add in your own question if you want, or change the wording of a question. We want to make sure it works for you. If you do customize an assessment and you're working with a partner, another colleague, you can always share that out with them. You can always print it. Now, as we move into an inquiry lesson, you'll notice that this has kind of that pinkish red color. You'll always know it's an inquiry lesson based on that color, and you'll see support for launching that inquiry, asking certain questions to our students. Maybe we're having them rephrase something and work in small groups. But we always want to come back to taking informed action once they analyze the different sources. Sometimes they're analyzing 6, 7, or 8 different sources. Maybe you're dividing those sources up and having students share out with one another what source they analyzed. But we want them to take informed action. We want them talking with each other. And how do the sources demonstrate the importance of what we're talking about? And then we're going to do something with all this great instruction that you've provided and have the students perhaps send a proposal to a government official. Of course, you can make changes to this activity and make it your own. Though there will be other options for you in the topic of student voice and choice and how they apply their knowledge. Our final type of lesson is a culmination of all the lessons, a wrap-up. We're going to have this review and apply lesson where students are checking for understanding on their own. They can see where they need to go back into the text and see what they need to actually relearn or learn. And then they're going to apply what they learn. And you'll notice here that there's 4 choices. And that's in addition to an assessment that they could take online or in print. So as they apply what they've learned, maybe they're going to connect to the past. Maybe they're going to understand multiple perspectives. So this is writing about origin stories. Maybe they're creating a virtual museum. They could certainly do this with a small group. You could do this as a whole class. Or they're making connections to today. And if they still need some help, there's always reteaching activities that you can customize and edit before assigning to your students. Here's just an example of one of those reteaching activities. Any questions? I'll just take a brief pause here and see if there's any questions I can answer.
Not at the moment, Julie.
Thank you, Laura. All right, so let's talk about some of the excellent lesson resources and other top resources that teachers around the world love to use. So my slide just a second ago said inquiry journal. That is one of the top resources. But think about that customizable lesson planner, because some of your students in the morning might need something very different than your students later in the day. The different teacher edition activities, your interactive, your student ebook that I'm going to show you that it's truly interactive. The reading and writing essentials for students reading a couple grade levels below. And then also the inquiry journal that's a part of your digital account for almost every title. This inquiry journal, and this is very important, this is additional or alternative opportunities for inquiry. You already have inquiry built right in with history and government and econ and civics, but you have additional opportunities with a new compelling question and even more rigorous support and activities for your students. So they're really digging deeper. They're asking their own questions and looking at additional different primary and secondary sources. Your students can absolutely do this online on their own, or you can easily download it and print off sections and have students work together or on just certain parts of it. One of the most exciting parts of this, not just the interactive piece of it online, there's even text to speech, and the students can go back in and look at sources and compare and contrast, as you'll see here in my video. But when it comes to taking informed action, the students get to choose, and there's 3 choices. I need to go back there. They have 3 choices for every inquiry journal topic. So here they might do the podcast, write a letter, write an editorial. Maybe they'll come up with their own idea. I've seen students who do TED Talks or do a skit or a poem or a rap. A lot of cool ideas out there. And then there's always embedded rubrics for you and your students. So that's going to be the inquiry journal, completely additional or alternative inquiry. Maybe bring in a few of those sources, that compelling question. If there's a topic you love to teach and that's very engaging for your students, that's going to be your go-to, I guarantee it. So now let's talk about the digital. And just know that if your students don't have access to the internet, they can always download a lesson or a topic when they're at school with you, and they can access that offline. Optimizes for any device. But what I want to do is go online to our demo account that I gave you. And let's see, I'm pretty sure you're all seen that. And yes, you are. Nope, you're not yet. So let me stop sharing just for 1 second and go to that. Okay, now we're going to share one more time. Okay, so now you should be seeing the demo account, and you are. So you'll see all of the titles included. If there's a title you don't see, please let Laura know in the chat, because we'll get you that demo code. Maybe you want to look at an AP title or something that's not here. A lot of popular titles. Now, certainly sociology, street law, let's see if there's any other on the list here. Civil rights, a global perspective. Those aren't set up exactly the way I've told you, but they're all on the same platform. So now that we're in a digital space, it's going to look very familiar no matter what title we're in. So I'm actually going to go to world history, and I don't know that I clicked into world history. So let's see what I did click into. Oh, it's trying to log me out. So because of student privacy, of course, it'll log you out if you've been logged in for too many hours. When you come back from lunch, log back in, else you'll be logged out. So we're going to go ahead and go to world history, high school, and you'll notice a few things. Your dashboards all look the same. The icons on the left-hand side are all the same. If I ever want to come back to dashboard, I just click on dashboard. But notice my ebooks here in the center of my page. I want to model for you what some of the functionality of the student ebook is and does, because we want to show our students, especially those younger students, and I saw some of you teach those younger grades. So let's show our students the power of this. And you know what? Whoever opened it last, it was at the Renaissance. So I'm going to stay right there. But I'm going to go to the first lesson, which would be, let's see what this first lesson is, Introducing the Renaissance. Notice the volume or the little volume button. We can have this read aloud. If I have students in my class that only have the print, let's go to page 50. Now, as I scroll down, you'll notice that there's some highlighting already been done. Someone's probably highlighted this. So if I want to clear those highlights, I could certainly do that. I'm going to go ahead and do that because maybe I highlighted that in first period. Notice that I can click onto a word that's underlined, and there's my glossary with English and in Spanish as well. Again, I mentioned this works great with Google Translate, but if I want to do a close reading with my students, and I know that there's something in this paragraph that I want them to cite this evidence later, let's highlight this, students, and let's put a note here. So I'm going to highlight the section. I can put it in whatever color I choose. Maybe blue is citing text evidence, and I might leave my teacher a note. My students are then able to go back in up at the top left here at this contents button, and they can look at all of their great notes they've done over the times. Let's see my note for today. And it's still July 30th where I am right now. And I can also look at my notes and I can export those notes, and it's a beautiful little study guide. So it's really important that we let our students know about this. How great is that? They can play videos if there's a video. We can show that transcript if we want. Any video or map that's interactive, I can open it right here from my student ebook. Look at this interactive map. I really encourage you to have your students just explore because there's very cool things they can do. Sometimes they don't realize how far it is from the Philippines to New York City. And so we can do all that with these maps. These maps have layers. Sometimes they have audio or video and they come alive. Pretty exciting. So you'll notice as this loads, there's going to be a lot of different things I can do with this map. It tells me all about it. I have different layers here. It'll list, and it does take a minute to load, and you can click these layers off. You can use the measurement tool, and that always opens in its own tab. So those maps are truly interactive, zoom in, zoom out. And then of course, we're going to have places where our students, we have checks for understanding. We want them to explore the culture. And so let's type in the box here. And we just did, it's automatically saving. I can absolutely assign this lesson to my students, or if I just want to peek in at Laura's account, I can see exactly what she has written for that response without assigning it. As my students are working through the lesson, they're going to see that timeline, those maps, that's that introduction lesson. And then as they move to the next lesson, you'll notice that reading strategy, that guiding question. Notice that banner across the top is blue. The next lesson, lesson 3, we still have a reading strategy. It's a different strategy. And we have that guiding question. The next lesson though, notice the banner across the top has that pink color. This is an inquiry activity. So my students are analyzing not 1, 2, 3, they're analyzing 7 different sources. Maybe we split those up. We divide and conquer. But the students will work through this. Here's those, and they're great primary sources because we're such a new resource. 2023 and 2024 editions. So you're going to see primary sources that have not been included before. We're really proud of this. Again, students can do this online, or we could certainly print this off. They can do this in their notebook. And you can always see, let's go back to one of those response questions, those checks for understanding. If we're doing this as a whole class and we want to be able to see what the answer is to this, let's come up here to the top right and take a look at our teacher notes. I'm able to see the answers. And so students, what did you get for your response? Well, Dante's at the center of both the human world and the spiritual world. Let's make sure we have the right response. So when we go back and look at our interactive student ebook and they do their studying for their quiz, they have the correct response. So a lot of things to explore in the student interactive ebook, which I'm now going to close out at the top right. Okay, your teacher's edition. I just want to point out a couple of things. Little tip for today. In your teacher's edition, it's going to open to the last place where you were. So it's always going to keep your place. And it looks like I'm here at this scope and sequence, but I'm going to go ahead and go down to my, let's see, I'll go to Asian empires. And I can't read that. Maybe some of you that are younger with better eyes can read that. But on the right-hand side, I have a little button that says switch to single page view. And that's what I'm going to do because I want to be able to see my learning objectives. I want to be able to see my pacing. This is going to be basically 15 days of instruction. So then that way I can plan and say, do I want to bring in more inquiry? Do I want to do more hands-on topic projects? Or maybe I want to save that for a topic that doesn't have as many lessons. Completely up to you. But that's going to be your teacher's edition. If ever you want to save a note in your teacher's edition, so maybe this inquiry journal was the best thing you ever did, or this source was amazing, go ahead and highlight this section and leave yourself a note. And you'll have that year to year under your notes in your teacher's edition. Okay. So you can take notes in your teacher's edition and your students can also take notes. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. And just notice here you have that inquiry journal, the full inquiry journal for your topic is there. You have that Spanish version if you need it. And before we start looking at all of the lesson plan activities, just take a look at the additional resources. You'll want to come back to this because we have some really fun Kahoots, which is that gamified, that little almost competitive type of a game that we can see what do the kids know about all these topics. We have a current events website called By the Way. This will start being updated in August, so we're basically talking in a couple of days from now. But all of these articles have a really nice little bell ringer or exit ticket attached to it. You'll notice if I scroll down to this article at the bottom, there's always a show what you know or what do you think. This could be a journal entry, a turn and talk. And the students can always research. They can always type in, if I want to type in Japan here, I can see all of the archived articles. And there's a lot of other fun choices at the top for things for you to explore later. But as I go back to my dashboard, I wanted to just also show you that there's a family help section. This is also on the student side, and I will show you the student side here very shortly. Election Central, getting started. This is a nice little course for you teachers if you want to do some more training. But let's take a look where we find all of our lesson plans for our topic. Up at the top says dashboard. Under the word dashboard, we're going to go to browse this course, and you'll see here on the left-hand side every topic, including a program overview with a lot of nice author videos, teacher training tips. Then you'll see your historian's toolkit at some of your titles, and then you have all of your topics. So if we choose to go to Asian empires, we can see that there's topic level and then lesson level. Different resources are found at different levels. If I open up the topic level, I'm not going to see as much. I'm going to see planning for me to start. It always starts off with planning for you as the teacher. Your pacing, your learning objectives, and then there's going to be some topic resources, but basically that's just your ebook. And then there's the personalized and adaptive version of your ebook called SmartBook. So let's just open up our interactive student ebook here for Asian empires to see what that first page looks like. Okay, you can see here that image. You can see the mosque. Okay, I'm going to close this. Now we're going to open up the personalized and adaptive version of this ebook. That's called SmartBook, a reading and writing practice program for students to help them really focus in on what they need to know, the most critical content of that topic. So let's continue reading. Look, it looks identical, right? Except for it took me down to some highlighted section here. This highlighted content is what the author said is the most critical content for our students to master those social studies concepts. So guess what our students are going to read or listen to? The highlighted section. Then they're going to be answering questions about the highlighted section. And you can see to questions right here. I'm going to click on that because I'm ready to practice. So I am going to hopefully get this wrong. My confidence level is pretty low and I got it right. Darn it. I can go to the next question. But in fact, I'll definitely get this one wrong because I'm going to write gibberish. So there's all different types of questions. I'm very low confidence here. Of course I got it wrong. Here were the correct answers. I might write those on the board. I'm not going to say what their answers to, but I might write those on the board because my students, as they're working through SmartBook, will see how to spell it correctly so they can get it right if they have an idea. Next, I'll go to my next question. Okay, I'm definitely going to try and get this one wrong. Thank goodness I did, because now I can't keep answering questions. I have to read about the concept. So we'll go back to the concept, we'll read about it. Notice it'll change color. When we go back to our question, you'll see that I have a lot to master. So if I were to assign SmartBook to my students, I might put the due date out a couple weeks and let them work on it at their own pace, because for some students, it will take them a lot longer than others. There's certainly ways to customize this experience, and we could certainly help you with that if SmartBook is something, or you could certainly, I'll show you where to look into that a little bit more. But SmartBook is also customizable as far as how you assign it, how much you assign. You can assign it at the lesson level, and the reports you get back are absolutely fantastic as far as what was the most challenging learning objective is the #1 favorite report, and how long did it take? Did it take, to master 3 concepts, did it take Laura 5 minutes and it took Julie an hour? That tells us that I need some work, right? So SmartBook is available at the topic level to assign, or even the lesson level, or you could assign several different lessons. And you can choose the amount of time that it should take your students. But keep in mind, when you assign it, tell the students, if you keep getting it wrong, you're going to get more and more questions. So then we have Spanish resources available, of course, as we expand that section. And then we also have teacher added resources section. So here, one of the teachers has added something here on a Greece earthquake. Let's see what it is. It's probably going to take me to a website, and it is. So here we're not having.
They don't believe how toxic this is.
And I might not have added that because I think that's a big add. So you can always add in, I can always go in and delete that. I think I'm going to. Where this is a demo, feel free to try adding something if you want. I'm going to delete that though. So you could add in an activity you created or purchased or were given. Well, maybe it doesn't want me to there. So you can add in a resource, and what you can do is add it to your presentation. You can add it, assign it, or you can even add it to your calendar. So I would probably not add a resource to the topic level because every lesson will have a presentation. So I probably would add it to a lesson level. I'm going to actually click on lesson 1. So lesson 1 is our introduction lesson. Again, our resources start off with teacher planning. As we expand these sections, you're going to see what lives here. Your customizable lesson planner, your teacher edition activities, your strategies to differentiate, and then everything for our students. What do we want to assign? Do we want to just assign SmartBook at this level? Let's see how many concepts it is. It's probably not very many. So here it's going to show that there's 3 concepts. It should take around 10 minutes if they know what they're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this so you see how that works. And we work with different programs like Schoology and Canvas and Google. So just know that you can get some help there as well. Oh, there we go. No, I'm going to close that out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and assign this just through McGraw Hill. And if I give it some points, it's just for participation because everyone can get an A here. So I'm going to click assign. It will tell me that it's been assigned at the top in green, and it will also tell me it's been assigned right here next to where it says visible to students. I could also play this Kahoot for my kids. I could put this in a presentation though, and I'm going to do that because when I play my presentation, I want to show the image of the mosque and the Kahoot and the map and the timeline. If I don't want the timeline, I can toggle that off. And then you'll see that reading and writing essentials that I could download for my students that struggle to read. I have my instructions for my hands-on topic project. Every lesson, every topic is set up in the same way. You'll have your teacher planning, your lesson resources. You're going to have assessment and Spanish resources and teacher added resources. So every lesson has a presentation that you can edit. Here's my present button at the top. If I click on present, you notice you can download this file. Right now I have 8 things toggled on for my presentation. Here we go. I have some slides. I have my Kahoot that I can play for my students. They can log in on their phone or their laptop or their Chromebook or their iPad. I have my blue mosque image, and I'm going to have I think I have another image or so, and then I think I have my map. So I'm not going in and out of anything. I just have my presentation ready to go that I've customized. So lesson presentations ready-made. On the right-hand side, a lot of the support that you notice in your teacher's edition. So if you don't make it home with that teacher's edition, you have it right here when you go online. Notice here, I want to go back to browse this course. The inquiry journal is its own at the top here, and that's going to be your additional or alternative inquiry. But let's take a look at lesson 6. We know that lesson based on the title. I know that it's an inquiry lesson. So if I open this up, I'm going to see that pink border across the top, and I know that I'm going to have a lot of sources that I can either download. So let's take a look at some of these sources. I could assign, I could print. So I have those different sources. I might not assign every source to every student. Again, a summative assessment. I have a lesson quiz that I can download or print. I could project, and I can show the students, here's how we're going to take this test. So let's just take a look at this. Especially our lower grades, if they've never used McGraw Hill, let's make sure they're successful when they take this assessment. So I click on this. Okay, it looks like we have 5 questions. I'm going to get started, show my students, model for them just like I did with my interactive student ebook. Here I have something to read, but you know what? I can't focus on that. So I'm going to use, I have text to speech. I have a highlighter. There's even a line. Oh, there's my line reader. I can grab my line reader. Oops, where's my line reader? There it is. Here we go. It's over here. That's why I'm going to show my students how to use it, because I'm not even sure for a minute here. So I can show my students how that works. There we go. And my students that are on plans, we can make sure that they have everything they need to access. They have a notepad, they have a highlighter. So here I have these different questions. Let me go to the final question. This question looks like I'm going to have to grade it. Maybe I've already seen some of their writing today, so I want to get rid of that question. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't do it from here. I'm going to scroll up. Anytime I want to modify an assessment, you'll notice on the left-hand side, there's an assessment icon and the word assessment. When I click into assessment, I'm going to see that I have my assessments, and this is anything I've created or modified. I have copies received from my colleagues if they did. And then I have all of my topics. So here's that Asian Empire. And let's find, I think it might have been lesson 6. So if I want to go to question 5 and get rid of that question, I'm just going to say remove. And as soon as I do that, that becomes my quiz. The original is still there. But notice when I come back to assessment and click on my assessment, we should have one on July 30th. Oh, where is it? Where is my assessment today? Oh, here we go. It's down here. So because this is a demo account, yours is going to be top and center, right top. So here we have our new quiz, which is only going to be, I bet, 5 questions instead of 6, right? Oh, it's 4 questions instead of 5. I could assign it, but I could also, if I go back to that, I'm going to go back to my assessments. Here it is. Let's see. Now, where did it go? I can go to any of my assessments here. We'll just pretend it's this one right here. And we can come over here to the options, the 3 little dots for options. And we can, let's see here. Nope, it's not wanting me to do it. Assessments, my assessments. Assessments. Here we go, Asian Empires. As soon as we modify this, we can send a copy, print it off, or assign it to our students. So we have a lot of great options there under that assessment, in that assessment suite. Now remember that I assigned the Smart Book to my students. Here it is right here, Smart Book Lesson 1. I want to look at my students. Oh, I forgot to share something so special with you. In my student interactive ebook, if that text is too hard, this is one of my favorite things too, a lot of teachers' favorite things. If this is too hard for them to read, guess what we can do? We can lower that Lexile level about a grade. So now my students, in fact, let's highlight this whole section. Okay. It's a very subtle difference sitting side by side with another student. They're not even going to notice. Oops, I need to highlight. I'm going to highlight this section. I'll just put it in green here. Okay. Now it's time for second period, and I don't really have any struggling readers. In fact, it's my honors class. So I'm going to change it to the upper, and some of it went away. If I even highlighted, some of it didn't stay, some stayed the same. Because if it's a quote or anything, it's not going to change that Lexile level. But anything else, it is going to have a nice subtle change there. So if we want to assign the certain Lexile level to our students, here's what we're going to do. As we log back in. Okay. It's morning for you all. It's nighttime for me. So I'm trying to be really savvy with my clicking here. But as I log back in fact, we'll go back to our world history, and we're going to take a look at our roster button on the left-hand side. So as we look at the roster button with these two little students, we're going to notice that you can manage Lexile levels right here. If you want to give everyone that lower Lexile level beginning of the school year until you get to know them, you can certainly do that. And then as you get to know them, you can move them up. The other thing we can do is we can emulate a student. So we're going to pretend this is my student that their caregiver wants to know what they have for homework. They're going to be working from and I'm in the demo account, so it doesn't want me to do it. There's going to be a selection for you to emulate that student. You can see exactly what they're going to see. And if we have time at the end, I'll show you one of my own accounts. But you're able to emulate. It'll say emulate when you click right here. It'll say emulate this student, and you can look and see exactly what they see when they log in. And they'll have their assignment right there. As I go back to my dashboard, you'll notice that we have a grade book you're welcome to use. All of your assignments are here. For those of you interested with Google, it's super simple. All we have to do is click on the options button, and we can share it out with Google Classroom. Okay, we can always delete that or edit it. Of course, there's a grade book I mentioned if you choose to use that. There's a calendar if you want to let the students know that next week we're starting on the topic of Greece. We could tell them that. And then, of course, your roster, and there's reports. So you could certainly run different types of reports, the two mainly being a standards report and an activity report. So you have a lot of different choices there on the left-hand side. As assignments are ready to grade, you're going to see those right here. I do want, the SmartBook overview, if you want to learn a little bit more about SmartBook, is just right here on the right. In fact, I do want to pull this up and show you one of those reports. So students are not only answering questions, but they're answering their confidence. And so some of these reports you'll get back are great as far as how many times are they guessing, or are they so confident but they're never getting it right? A lot of opportunities to have some great conversations with our students. So here's here's my favorite report. I'm going to try and enlarge. I am going to enlarge this. Okay. So here we can see how many learners have completed the assignment, how long did it take them to complete, how aware are they of their knowledge, but this is that number one report. How many concepts were challenging, and it'll tell you which ones were. So think about the reteaching possibilities there. Really great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And just notice under Browse This Course, I mentioned this at the very beginning, but our program overview, every course has this. If I click on Open right here, I'm going to see things like a family letter. I'm going to see Getting Started, a quick start course. This is going to help me get going. This is going to be kind of like what we're doing this morning. How to use this program, a checklist, your family letter, and then a lot of great videos for you to watch to really help you. If you need more help with making history relevant, or dual language instruction, or global competency, or current events, you've got it. So I've left 10 minutes for questions. Laura, what else can I cover?
Okay, Julie, we actually have two questions from Lydia. what are the difference in the lesson planner here compared to the Cambridge curriculum? So that is one question. Would you want to answer that one first?
So ours is just really based on whichever title. Which title are you using?
I think
Or
that
did she say?
oh no, she's using the Cambridge curriculum. So yeah.
I just didn't know which title which title in that curriculum she was using, and that she wanted me, like, do you want me to compare the two? Is that?
I think yeah, because for the I think it's the lesson planner that you start earlier.
Mm-hmm. So our lesson planner, basically, in fact, you'll notice a couple of different things. Obviously, it's just a suggestion. I'm going to actually open up the teacher edition here of just this US history book. And I want to show you that lesson planner and just point out a couple of things. Since this is a national title for us, so many places around the world teach different topics, a different timeline. Maybe they're doing it thematically or chronologically. But if we're looking, for example, at Reconstruction, or let's look at the World War II. So if we're looking at World War II and we're looking at the customizable lesson planner for a lesson, we know that, for example, let me get to lesson 1 here. Okay, here we go. Here's a good example. We'll go to the Holocaust. What our authors and academic design team have done here is they've done a few red check marks saying, if you add up these different activities, you're going to have about a 45-minute lesson plan. However, based on your standards that you're meeting, based on your region, based on wherever you're teaching and what standards you want to master, what skills you want to cover, you're going to really focus in on this key up here to determine, maybe I'm not teaching this civics focused activity. Maybe I'm doing more with this historical thinking activity. So I work just in the United States, and every states could not be more different. So I'll have, even within a state, I'll have some districts that say, we don't care about doing writing in social studies time. But then I have some districts that'll say, we want to do more with civics and writing than reading and historical thinking. So this is such a suggested, just optional, customizable planner for you, because we know that you're covering such different things, maybe in your part of the world, than just even right next door to you. So this is a curriculum that is, yes, flexible, and really just make it your own and customize it to fit your needs and what goals you're trying to achieve. And if I didn't answer that, if that's not what you were looking for, we can certainly send you more information on this lesson planner.
Thank you, Julie. So the next question that we have is from Christian Natividad. I'm sorry if I messed up your name. Can we access the learning materials like the journal?
Absolutely. So I encourage you, with that demo account, if there's a specific title you're looking at. So for example, say you want to look at, I'm going to go to my programs here, this little house, and I can see all of these titles. So if you would like to look at, let's just look at econ. If you want to look at that inquiry journal, I'll show you what you can do. And I encourage you to do this. Just go ahead and open up that inquiry journal and take a look, and you can even print this off and save it to your desktop. I don't know if I'm allowed, I think I'm allowed to say that. So a lot of great resources and materials for you to try it with your students, because every teacher people that see this, parents, community members, they just love this, because we're really going deeper with social studies instruction. I mean, I taught social studies for many years before I became a specialist with McGraw Hill. And I think I often had them read the chapter and we took a test and we would talk about it, but we weren't doing all these great projects. And this is what kids will remember.
Nice.
Almost all of these resources you can certainly download. There's so many. Next question.
Question. Can students choose their Lexile level on their own, or do I need to assign it?
Teachers need to assign it. One thing I will say, if you have chosen, I have never, I don't think in almost 10 years, I don't think I've ever had a teacher say, oh, my student was so embarrassed they had that. It's a really, really subtle change. And I think the one time a teacher did say to me, she knew of a few kids that didn't need it. And so she said, I just moved them and they didn't even know I'd moved them. But if a student's struggling to read, or maybe you know a student's going through a hard time, maybe with a family situation or just anything, maybe and you notice them struggling to read, have them listen, lower that Lexile level. I had a teacher in the western part of the United States that he would print off the reading and writing essentials, and he would have a stack on his desk. And if a student who normally could read the textbook was just having a really rough day because they were thinking about a scholarship or an athletic event, they could come up and grab one. And he would say, if you ever need something that might not be quite, that just, you know what, you're just having a hard day, come and grab this and see if this works for you. And some students really appreciated that opportunity to have a choice of how they completed their assignment. But whenever we go into our Browse This Course, we can always see that we have so many ways to access our material. So listen, lower the Lexile level, read the print, do paper and pencil. And so here we can go into Unit 2, and you'll see the econ and the government is set up a little differently. It's with units and chapters. But as we open up a unit and then we open up chapters, we're going to see that we have different unit resources. And there's so many types of things that we can print off for our students once we download. And actually I'm in a unit, so that doesn't really help us. I would need to go to a chapter and lesson. But definitely download some of these resources. If there's a title you're looking at and you want to try something with a student and we have the same topic or chapter you're about to teach, if you've already started, then please try out the resources with your students. We have about 4 minutes. Other questions?
No, I think that's about all the questions that we have. Thank you so much, Julie. I think the previous time that I shared the demo info, I missed a full stop between my and MH Education. So some of you were asking, oh, why do we get an error page? I'm really sorry for that. And I've posted the new demo account. As Julie has mentioned, we do encourage you to go into this demo account and play around with it, see if it feels right for you. And there are just so much resources inside. So do check that out. I will include this inside our post training email as well. So and all of these resources you can share with your colleagues, and maybe because I know a few of the teachers, they have kids at home that they can trial and error with, so do that as well. Okay, so
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Julie. I just a quick reminder, if you did register for today's session, you will receive the recorded link via email within the next week or so. I'm sorry, because this is the back to school season and it is kind of crazy at the back end. So we do appreciate a bit more time for us to actually load those videos and edit certain parts out. So if you do have any remaining questions, don't feel free to drop me an email. We are here. We are here even after the back to school season, so don't worry about that. Don't forget to check out our back to school web page, so that there's informations in there. There's blogs and other resources that you might find useful for your back to school season. And thanks again, Julie, for this session, and we wish you all of you all the best for the back to school preparation, and have a great day ahead. Thank you.